talk, sports, and more. It's the noise you can't ignore. Log on to allnoiseradio.com. Fire up the station. Find out more about your favorite jocks. Get the latest CSU news and more. Plus, you can take All Noise Radio with you on the go for free. Just download the Live 365 app to your iPhone, iPod Touch, or BlackBerry and search All Noise Radio. Check out Toronto's broadcasters today at allnoiseradio.com. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Sit back down and shut your trap. It's time for
Keeping sports with them free, right here on All Noise Radio.
Are you ready?
Well, I'll need some beer.
You have to ask me nicely.
Come on now, don't be bashful.
Place with the best sports talk on news, social media.
I can prove it with my usual flawless logic.
Hey man, this time I'm gonna do it my way.
What's your name again?
And now, here's our host, M3, Mike Rosansky. Coming to you from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It's time for Keeping It Sports with M3, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everything's going well for you here on this Monday, the 15th day of July. How's it going out there? Hope you're all enjoying your summer, enjoying this summer weather, which continues to be obnoxious sometimes in Miami. And I like warm weather, but the humidity, that's what really gets to me. That's what really ticks me off. Especially when I just get done working out, shower, I'm all good to go and everything, and I start breaking out in a sweat again by just taking my dog for a walk. But hey, can't complain about that. I mean, no one's going to be perfectly happy about the weather 365 days out of the year. There are some people that like the intense humidity. There are some people that like the cold. No, just like our society, we're not going to make everybody happy about everything. But hopefully I can make you guys happy for the next hour or so here during this podcast, whenever you may be listening to it, whether you're watching it live on Facebook right now. You can watch that feed once again later on the Facebook page, Keeping Sports with M3. Facebook.com/Keeping It Sports with M3, or go over on the YouTube channel, watch that, and we'll give out all this information again, once again later in the podcast. Or you're listening to the podcast version on the aforementioned Facebook page, or via the Twitter account I've set up for it, at Keeping It Sports. A lot of things to get to today. With we're just coming off of baseball's All-Star break, some things to take from that I liked, didn't like, give us some thoughts there, especially comments that were made over the break by both players and management, and we're starting to head into that season of the trade deadline coming up actually 2 weeks from Wednesday, so some thoughts on some things that could go down there, as well as mixing some NFL along the way with one thing that was brought up by the league this past week that I'm not quite in favor of, and baseball did that same thing as far as possible rule changes that they're test dummying out. So I'll give some thoughts on those a little bit later. But what a summer it's been for the NBA. I mean, they couldn't make this up if they tried. The soap opera it's turned into. The NBA offseason, you understand now why the media talks about it endlessly, relentlessly. I mean, all during this year, we had people discussing on different platforms, whether it be ESPN, CBS, Fox, everywhere, on television, radio, previewing, breaking down this upcoming free agent class. But none of us could have expected it to be as wild and chaotic as it has turned out to be, especially when you're realizing it's not just free agent signings. There's also trades to be made. There's also trades happening. And, we were all caught off guard a week and a half ago when the Clippers were very under the radar, able to pull off the move for Paul George. I mean, no one in their wildest imaginations thought that was going to happen, especially after he signed the lengthy contract extension last summer. But as soon as that happened, you figured, all right, OKC is probably going to start going into rebuild mode right now. And the next move, the next domino to fall in that, to show that they're in the process, is to now trade Russell Westbrook, to now trade the guy that has been with that organization longer than anybody. I mean, you think about it, when it's all said and done, when it comes to the Thunder, and I'll get to that in a second. Actually, we all knew at some point a Westbrook trade had to be done. It was just a matter of when it was going to happen and to where it was going to happen. Well, it did happen. Didn't take it actually that long. The Thunder traded Westbrook late last week to the Houston Rockets for Chris Paul and multiple first-round draft picks, two of which, one is theirs in 2024, the other's theirs in 2026, and they have the right to swap draft picks in 2021 and 2025. So now between this trade, the Paul George trade, and other trades they've made in recent memory, trading away some of their star power, they have about 15 first-round draft picks from now until 2026. And, that's good asset to build up there with the Oklahoma City Thunder, because in all likelihood they're not going to use all of those draft picks, and you can't fit all the players on the roster and keep them happy with playing time and cap space. But you now have assets to use the next time that big star becomes available. You have assets to use to trade for cap space at times, or these young players that you start to accumulate, the ones you decide you're going to keep, such as the one you just traded for in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who in all likelihood is now going to be the starting point guard for this team. Once you start building up a roster like what you've seen in recent years that the Brooklyn Nets have done, or what you saw the Clippers do, you can start to supplement that with that star player the next time that a star is disgruntled and wants out of his current situation. As far as Westbrook is concerned, he was going to want to go to a better place to win a championship, because he was not going to want to be the lone guy on his team once again. He was not going to want to carry the baggage for everybody once again, because you got to think that, remember, he averaged a triple-double the year before Paul George got there. He's averaged a triple-double every year for the last 3 years. You have to figure that took a toll on him. That's taken a toll on him by carrying so much of that load. And I know there's people that will say, oh, well, look, there were times he stole rebounds from Steven Adams, or there was times that it seemed like he was just a stat cruncher with either forcing the ball to guys until they were able to make a shot, or putting up shots just to make sure that he got his 10, 10, 10 each night. But remember, he had to do it. He was the lone guy on the team. He was the Michael, and the rest of them were a bunch of Tito's. So, I mean, you really can't blame him. I mean, he went out there and did what he thought was in the best interest of helping his team win. And when someone's doing that, I can't really blame them. I really can't. I know that when Westbrook and Durant were together, there was always that kind of uneasiness there between the two of them. I know it always seemed like I took the side of Durant in that, but once Durant left and you heard all the stories about how Durant did Westbrook wrong, about how he had a meeting with Westbrook, Adams and company up in the Hamptons, had dinner with them. One night he tells them, I'm definitely staying, and the next day he meets with the Warriors and agrees to leave. That kind of turned me into being on Westbrook's side there. But when it comes to Westbrook now he goes, he reteams up with one of his former teammates. And I know it's been 7 years, but everything I've heard is they've been in contact over the years about at some point wanting to play together again. The problem becomes, and this is one that I'm sure every single one of us thought the moment that this trade was announced, is how are these two going to work together? Yeah, sure, they're friends, but they're 1 and 2 in the league as far as usage rate is concerned, as far as how the amount of time during a given game they have the ball in their hands. The knock on James Harden's always been that, by fans and by players, is players don't want to go play with him because he doesn't pass the ball much. Fans call Harden boring because he throws up 1 million shots per game, and it's just dribble, step back, shoot, and not giving the ball up for his teammates. But that's something that Mike D'Antoni is going to have to figure out there in essentially what could be the last year of his time at Houston. Remember, he ended all negotiations as far as a contract is concerned with the Rockets. Now, who knows, that those negotiations could always pick up again, but now he's going into this season as essentially on the hot seat, because when you make a trade like this, you get the Chris Paul contract off the books, you trade all these draft picks, and you bring in a younger, better, more athletic guard to join the MVP guard you already had, and you didn't have to trade anything off the rest of your roster. There's now pressure on you, especially at a time where you see so much turnover in the West, at a time where who knows, there are some people out there that don't think the Warriors are going to be a playoff team next year. You look at the Jazz making the trade for Mike Conley. You look at the Lakers, they add AD to LeBron, but they have to trade away most of the roster to do so, and pretty much have 8-9 new guys on the team. How are they going to mix together? The Clippers, they had a core that they traded away from a little bit with trading Gallinari and Alexander to OKC, but they add in Kawhi and Paul George, but there's still going to be somewhat of an adjustment level with those guys now playing together. There shouldn't be as much of an adjustment level for the most part with Houston, because Harden and Westbrook have played together before, and it's mostly the same roster with when it comes to the Houston Rockets. The only real change is the fact that instead of Nene there now as your backup big man, you have Tyson Chandler brought into the mix. So, Mike D'Antoni, or as I was about to call him, Mike Antoni, is really going to have to earn his pay this year. And I guess it means it's the return of 7 seconds or less, which, Westbrook is going to like because he loves going 100 miles an hour all day, all the time. And it could be a good thing for James Harden. And I say this respectfully. I've always looked at James Harden there, and I don't look at him as like some guy that just looked like he was in the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. But as far as NBA shape is concerned, I've never considered James Harden to be in the greatest shape in the world. I've always looked at him and said, yeah, the guy's in good shape, but he doesn't look like he's, you know what I'm saying, at that LeBron James type level of peak physique, or what you see out of guys like Westbrook, what you see out of guys like Giannis, where they look like they were carved out of stone. And there are times where it seems like with Harden and how much he has the ball in his hands and how many shots he's taken, times late in the game he looks gassed, he looks out of breath. I mean, maybe it's just me. I don't want to seem like I'm coming off as fat shaming here, because he's still in good shape, but he could be in even better shape if he wants to take this to the next level. And maybe that's why he shows such a lackluster of attention on defense at times. But all in all, it's been an interesting summer in the NBA with all this turnover, all this change that has happened. I mean, you think about all the moves that I just listed there. Then you also you think about what's gone on with the Thunder now, and how their team, for their fan base, has essentially been pulled out from under the rug on them. And I was saying this to some friends of mine. My brother and I were talking about this over the last couple days. This has got to be something that they do a 30 for 30 special on at some point, don't you think? I mean, at somewhere down the road, there's got to be some kind of 30 for 30 on this whole thing. I mean, I could think of it now. What if I told you a team had Harden, Westbrook, Durant, and Ibaka? What if I told you people thought that they were going to win many championships together? People thought it was a foregone conclusion, but it never happened, and now they're all gone. ESPN presents its next 30 for 30 production. Okay, see you later. Coming up on August 15th. I mean, can you just imagine? I mean, you every time one of these stories comes up, you can hear that 30 for 30 theme song coming up in your head, saying, hey, that would make for a really good story someday that I want to go back, rehash. And I'm sure there's someone out there at ESPN right now that's probably already got that in the back burner. If they haven't, they should start working on it now. There's also one side of this I've been remiss to bring up here, and that's if you're Chris Paul, you got to be thinking to yourself, what the hell, man? I mean, yeah, I'm making $40 million a year, but I just signed that max extension with them last summer, and they're trading me away after 1 year. Well, we heard all the rumors about you and Harden not getting along, how you and Harden weren't even on speaking terms by the end of last year. It got so tense, so toxic there. And who did you think they were going to get rid of? You really think that there was any thought of by the Rockets of them getting rid of James Harden? I mean, please, you're 5 years older than the guy. Of course, you're going to be the one that goes. And I see on Twitter all weekend people saying, "Oh, Chris Paul, so sad from he could possibly finish his career in Oklahoma City. He may never get another shot at winning a championship." Well, as I said, he's making $40+ million over the next 3 years. I don't think anyone's going to be shedding a tear for him, or he's going to be asking for any handouts. 2, the Thunder, while they may not be able to find a trade partner right now, they're going to trade Chris Paul at some point. I mean, with all of this draft capital they've built up, they can piece some of these with Chris Paul to get someone to take that contract off their hands. And if it gets really bad, it gets to the point where they're looking like a lottery team next year, maybe Chris Paul eventually asks for a buyout and takes a little less money and plays where he wants, whether it be with Miami or the long rumored connection of him finally playing with one of his best friends in LeBron James. That remains to be seen, but as we go on, it's weird to think that all of this chaos, all this craziness has happened in the NBA this offseason, and we're still 3 months away from basketball getting started. I mean, doesn't it feel like it was forever since the Raptors won the championship? Yet it's only been about a month, and all of this has happened in that month time. That's why they continue to say it. Sports is the greatest drama, the greatest soap opera that there is in the world. You can't make this stuff up. And when it comes to sports in general, the NBA, that every time that you think that it can't get wilder, it can't get crazier, another one of these kind of trades comes out of the woodwork. There's more NBA I want to get to. I want to talk about some boneheaded comments that were made in the last couple days, and some really damning comments that were made by a former player last week, as well as a couple of these contract signings that were made in the last couple days. So I'll get to that. As I said, there'll be some baseball talk throughout the hour based on the events that occurred at All-Star Week, as well as some NFL that I'll mix in along the way as well. So, hey, whatever you're doing on this Monday afternoon, I hope you're relaxing. Hope you're all enjoying your day. And I hope you stick with me for the next 35, 40 minutes or so here. So sit back, relax, help put your feet up on the table if there's one sitting in front of you. I continue keeping it sports with M3.
Shouldn't we be doing something we love? Call Connecticut School of Broadcasting at 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Since 1964, Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami, has helped place thousands of grads as DJs, sportscasters, entertainment reporters, behind the scenes in audio and video production, every aspect of the broadcast media. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has trained men and women of all ages and backgrounds in a matter of months, not years. Learn by doing from area radio and TV pros. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. Day and evening classes begin soon. Get trained. Get connected now.
Welcome back to Keeping It Sports with M3. I gotta say, I'm surprised about the fact that my voice is seemingly in very good shape today, and I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back. Of course, when I do say that ongoing cough that I've had for seemingly forever pops up real quick. But last night I was in Philadelphia for an event at Wells Fargo Center. WWE was having their monthly pay-per-view there, and of course, being the big wrestling fan I am, I went out there and checked that out. And usually when I go to these events, I'm doing a lot of screaming, yelling, cheering, and whatnot, and burn out my voice. And I come in to do the podcast the next day, and it comes off as a little bit hoarse and whatnot. So I'm pleasantly surprised that I've been able to come in today with my voice and not sounding like I'm talking like this and having a lot of scratchiness in my voice. It's been clear sailings so far, so hopefully I can keep this up. Now, I mentioned a couple of contract signings that were made in the last couple days. One that kind of caught everybody's surprise and created some buzz, and it's not where he went. Listen, we already knew Kawhi Leonard was going to be joining the Clippers. But when he was joining the Clippers, the original report had him taking the max deal of 4 years for $142 million. Well, that changed last week when it came out the terms of his contract, stating that it instead will be a 3-year, $103 million contract with that third year, the 2021-2022 season, being a player option. So he's only really guaranteed to be with the Clippers for the next 2 years. Try to put a little bit of pressure on the Clippers to continue building a potential winning team around him. Wants to keep his options open, especially with the fact that he's teamed up now with Paul George, but Paul George's contract runs out that same summer, so they can become free agents again together. And it continues the narrative of what the NBA is. It's a players' league. The players have taken over control of this league slowly but surely over time, with how they're essentially their own agencies. Their own agencies in, they're doing a lot of either back channeling or self-communicating with other players, talking about always knowing what each other's thinking, always knowing what their future plans are, and not wanting to commit to anything more than two or 3 years at the most. Like, look at when LeBron James went back to Cleveland. Every year it was 1 year and a player option for the next year. He never committed to them long term for 4 or 5 years, because he wanted to make sure that they were going to continuously build a championship caliber team around him, and wanted to keep his options open, so if he felt that they were not going all out each and every single year, he could leave at any time he wanted. And you can't blame him for that one, especially when with the contentious relationship that he had with Dan Gilbert, and that is kind of being generous by saying that. So, Kawhi, it's interesting, when it comes to Kawhi, he comes off as the quietest, mellow person that we've ever seen. I mean, you didn't think we'd ever see a superstar in any sport quieter than Tim Duncan. Well, Kawhi Leonard said, "Hey, hold my beer on that one," and had that's why all throughout his free agent period, when he was going around meeting with teams, you weren't getting any leaks from his camps. I mean, not just the fans, but the media itself was in the dark on this. Teams were in the dark on his decision making. So this is kind of the first time where you see Kawhi not just being definitive about something, but showing that a little bit into what he's thinking, what his mindset is, the fact that he wants to keep options open for himself like this. Now, one guy who will not have options open to him for at least the next 5 years is Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons, who earlier today agreed to a max contract extension with the Philadelphia 76ers for 5 years, $170 million. And when it comes to Ben Simmons, you watch him, you see his ball handling ability, you see his passing ability, you see his speed, especially for a guy that is 6'9" and playing the point guard position. But there's still a lot of growth there. I mean, to be made. I mean, we talk about how talented he is. We talk about how the world of ability that he possesses. But they talk about trust the process there in Philly. It's still a process when it comes to Ben Simmons. He still needs to do more than be able to pass the ball and go in for layups, and he needs to learn how to make a shot outside of 10 feet. He needs to come up with some kind of consistent jump shot. I mean, what has he been in the league for? 2-3 years now? He's only attempted is the key word here. Attempted 17 three-point shots. You want to take a guess how many of those he's made? Go ahead. 0. None of them. Yeah, a big donut. He is 0 for 17 from behind the three-point arc. And in the league that it is today, it is very important to learn a three-point shot, at least a consistent one. I'm not saying he's got to turn into Steph Curry or turn into J.J. Redick, but at least have some kind of consistency out there. Don't have it so that a player has to come out and defend you. I mean, you watch it when he'd have the ball on the perimeter, he'd either be looking for the quickest option to get the ball out of his hands, or he'd be standing there looking around wondering, do I shoot this? And a defender would look at him and be like, all right, yeah, go ahead, shoot the ball. I dare you. You're not going to make this basket, because people know that he can't create anything outside the paint. So now it's up to him to get in the gym this summer and become a better three-point shooter. And I'm sure he's going to go do that. I'm sure whether he gets together with one of these former players, which these players seem to always have these summer camps that they run with the current players, or he just goes on his own initiative and goes to the gym and works on three-point shot. It's an important part of his development, especially if Philly hopes to continue to build around him and Embiid as their top stars. Now, the Sixers have had a very good offseason. You look at the moves they've made, being able to re-sign Tobias Harris, taking Al Horford from one of their main competitors in the Eastern Conference, being able to bring in Josh Richardson in the sign-in trade that they did with the Miami Heat for Jimmy Butler. But and you look at them and you say, all right, they're definitely one of the favorites in the Eastern Conference. But I don't need to hear comments coming out of that team saying that with Kawhi going to the West, the Sixers are going to walk to the finals. And now, when you hear those comments from a Sixers player, you're thinking, oh, wow, maybe it's one of their stars having a lot of confidence in their team. Maybe, Joel Embiid, we know how charismatic he is with the comments that he'll make at times. No, it wasn't him. Well, then you're saying, oh, it was Ben Simmons. He's turned himself into a guy that if you're not a Sixers fan, you pretty much hate his guts. Thinking, no. Like, Horford? No. Tobias Harris? No. No. It was, of all people, James Ennis III. I think, wait a minute. This guy, James Ennis III, who's a nice role player on their team, he's going to come out here and start nonsense saying that, oh, we're the team to beat in the Eastern Conference, saying that they're just going to walk right to the finals. I understand having confidence in your team, but when you're a guy that has averaged 6 points a game over the course of your career, you've been in Philadelphia for less than one season. You came there halfway through the year after the Rockets got rid of you. You played only 15 minutes a night. I mean, and you're only shooting 30% from the three-point arc. Calm yourself down there, fella. There's a reason why you've been on, 6 different teams? 6 different teams over the course of your NBA career. Over the course of 5 years now, you're on 6 different teams. You're not that big of an important piece. If the Sixers need something at the deadline, you're someone that they could just throw in the back end of the package and say, all right, take James Ennis III. We have no use for you. So calm the hell down. And the East, you look at right now, Boston's still going to be a team to be dealing with, but they lose Horford and Kyrie. They do replace Kyrie with Kemba Walker. Brooklyn, who knows how good they're going to be, because they essentially swapped out D'Angelo Russell for Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant's not going to be playing for them next year, recovering from the injury. Indiana was a formidable team, but we got to see how Oladipo comes back from injury. You have Toronto that will obviously be taking steps back now with out Kawhi in the mix there. Milwaukee, they lose Brogdon, but have essentially brought the entire team from last year back. So I don't think it's as much of a cakewalk as one Mr. James Ennis III wants to make it out to be. So, as I said, calm down, young fella. Do something first before you can make those kind of comments. Now, before I take another break here, there were some pretty damning comments made last week on SiriusXM Radio by Chauncey Billups, the current analyst on ESPN, know him as former point guard with the Pistons, Denver Nuggets, and spent a short time there with the New York Knicks. He was teammates with Carmelo Anthony, both in Denver and in New York, and was asked about Carmelo Anthony, the fact that outside 12 games last year, he hasn't played since, and no, Chauncey was just blatantly honest in the comments that he made about Melo, saying that scoring 30 meant too much to Melo. He said that if we lost, but Carmelo Anthony scored 30 points, that he'd be all joking, jovial in the locker room, talking to guys. But if we won and he didn't get 30, that he'd be disappointed, and essentially saying that winning really does not matter much to Carmelo Anthony. And it's one thing for fans to say that, because there's been a lot of people that have knocked Melo for the fact that he's only gone past the second round of the postseason once in his career. He's been to one conference final and hasn't even been to an NBA finals. Has always had that roadblock there, whether it be when he was with Denver, Kobe and the Lakers, where it was a roadblock from, or when he was with the Knicks, LeBron and the Heat were a roadblock for him, or the Pacers were a roadblock for him. And then there was the last 3 or 4 years he was with the Knicks, where the Knicks were just a garbage franchise, as they've been for pretty much most of the last 20 years. But when one of your peers says that about you at a time when you're still trying to hold out hope to continue your NBA career, man, that is very damning, and it shows you the mindset that there is in the league right now. I'm surprised that he did not play at all after the Rockets let him go last year. I figured that someone would have worked out a way to get him on their roster and see if, hey, can he provide us a little something. I thought obviously the easy landing spot would have been with his buddy LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers, or if he would have gone and played with Wade in his retirement tour in his final year with the Miami Heat. But no, now you wonder, is there any future in the NBA for Carmelo Anthony, especially when comments like this are made by not just one of your peers, but one of your ex-teammates, saying that scoring 30 means too much to him. That's as damning a comment as someone can make about you. And if teams think that you're just in this for you and not in it for the cause, not thinking about you're only thinking about me, no one's going to really want you around. It doesn't matter what you've done previously in your career. And at a time where he's in his mid-30s and was already on his last leg to begin with, we may have, in all likelihood, seen the last of Carmelo Anthony in the NBA. And kind of a sucky way for him to end his NBA career. I'm sure he would have wanted it to end on better terms, but hey, if he's disappointed, he can always look at that bank account and realize, yeah, I made a lot of cheddar in my career, and I'm going to make a lot more when my career is over, after I'm enshrined in the Basketball Hall of Fame. All right, going to take another break here, come back on the other side, get to some football, some baseball as we go along here. Continue keeping the sports with M3.
Help place thousands of people just like you in exciting careers in radio, television, and the new media. At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, our hands-on approach is different. It's designed to have you spend less time in the classroom and more time in the studios. From the first day, you'll work with state-of-the-art equipment. Learn by doing from our team of industry professionals who come from their studios to ours. The best part about it, you'll learn it all in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. So do what I did. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO. Step into the fast-paced world of the broadcast media. Day and evening classes begin soon. Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Get trained and get connected now. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com.
Welcome back to Keeping It Sports with M3. Hope you're all having a good Monday afternoon. Glad you could take the opportunity to check out the podcast this week, which, as I remind you each and every single week, tell your friends about it. Tell them where they can find this podcast, where they can hear someone rant, rave, whine, possibly complain, give their thoughts each and every week on the world of sports, not just the local area stuff. I mean, it'd be very easy for me to come on here each and every week and talk about what the Yankees did and break down them winning 2 out of 3 against the Toronto Blue Jays, or the Mets, and they win 2 out of 3 against the Marlins, but they have more off the field nonsense. That kind of stuff. Very easy to get to that. But there's plenty of other things going on in the world of sports, and I like to show my diversity and showing that I can talk about pretty much anything. Talk about the transactions, the moves, and rumors going on in the NBA. Talk about other things going on in baseball other than the New York market. People forget there's 28 other teams out there, people. There's 14 other games, 13 other games happening each and every single night, not just the Yankees and who they're playing, or the Mets and who they're playing. So I like to express that on here. And you can only find that through Facebook.com. Let me start that over. Facebook.com/Keeping It Sports with M3. You can also find that on Twitter at Keeping It Sports, as well as on the official Keeping It Sports with M3 YouTube channel. You can watch what I am live streaming on Facebook right now each and every single week through YouTube, and I share that link on both the Twitter account for the podcast, as well as my own personal Twitter account at M3 Rosansky. So be sure to check that out. And as I said, tell your friends about where they can find the podcast each week if they want to listen to someone's opinions and animated takes on the world of sports each and every single week, because we're trying to build up the following, try to build up the audience here, because as I say each week, you never know who's listening, and that could potentially help lead to my big break. Now, last week was the NBA All-Star break, or the MLB All-Star break. I got the NBA on my mind because of all the NBA we've talked. MLB All-Star break. God, this is gonna go. This could possibly go down in the archives as one of the worst editions of the podcast of all time. I'll be my own worst critic here right now. If you're still with me through this hour here, God bless you, because there have been some lapses in speech here so far today that, to be honest, if you checked out a while ago, I don't blame you, but shows you my drive and my passion to continue and at least admit my mistakes, and once again, let this be an example to you all out there. No one's perfect. So let me state this again. Last week was the Major League Baseball All-Star break. Yeah, there we go. All right, got that one correct. Score one for the bad guy. But last week was the baseball All-Star break, and of course with that comes the home run derby. I didn't get to see much of the derby just due to the fact I was out managing my softball team that night. The Shockers went 1-1, in case you're interested. But it was won by the Mets' Pete Alonso, who put on a very good showing for himself, had 61 home runs in the Derby. The problem here with the whole Derby is you got two people that you feel awful for. One is Pete Alonso, because he won the Derby. He hit 61 home runs over the course of 3 rounds and was just awesome, was consistent throughout. But all anyone wants to talk about, and all most people are going to remember, unless you're a Met fan, is the performance by Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and the crazy round that he had with Jock Peterson, in which they essentially went to tie-breaking round after tie-breaking round. One point, I think he got to 40 home runs in that round by itself. And it's a lot. It feels a lot like 2008 when Josh Hamilton had that round where he hit about 25 home runs. But what people don't remember is he lost the competition. He came short to Justin Morneau in the finals. But when you think back on it, no one thinks about Morneau winning. Everybody just thinks about Josh Hamilton. So you feel bad for Pete Alonso there, and the fact that he's not a bigger story as far as the baseball world is concerned. And the guy had 30 home runs at the All-Star break. He's one of the top home run hitters in not just the National League, but in all of baseball, but isn't getting that national recognition, that national attention by the fans and the media. And probably a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Mets suck and are going nowhere. They're going to be sellers at the trade deadline, in all likelihood trading Zach Wheeler, trading Todd Frazier, maybe trading Wilson Ramos, and anybody else that is on an expiring contract like Jason Vargas. So with the fact that he's doing this as a rookie on a bad team, it's not going to gain as much attention as, say, when Aaron Judge did it 2 years ago and the Yankees were having a surprising good season that led all the way to them making it to the American League Championship Series. So you feel bad for Alonso there. You also feel bad for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. because he put on an awesome show in his own right, had a Derby record 91 home runs, but he got nothing to show out of it. He had the most home runs, but didn't win because it's not... See, in the old days, the way they did it is it would carry over into the rounds. When it was just, all right, you have 10 outs to hit as many home runs. Not where there's a clock on the scoreboard and you have that time limit to hit home runs. So he... wore himself out in those first rounds, all for advancing, but it didn't carry over. It didn't mean anything to ultimately potentially winning, and ended up losing to Pete Alonso in the end. And it really sucks when you think about the fact that now they give out $1 million to the winner, and guys like this cases, they're only making $500,000 this year. So they're tripling their yearly salary in just one night. So that kind of is a downer for him there. As far as the game is concerned, the All-Star game itself, I mean, there was nothing earth-shattering about it. It wasn't like you had someone come out and do what Pedro Martinez did in '99, where he struck out 5 of the first 6 batters to come to the plate. You had a couple of really good, impressive pitching performances, like Shane Bieber striking out the side in the 5th inning, ended up being the MVP of the game, and good for Cleveland getting an Indian to be the MVP of the game. So you had that. If you're watching on Facebook right now, you will see I'm tying my shoe. It was kind of bothering me, so I had to take care of this. But no, Cleveland gets that nice moment. But other than that, there weren't any real over-the-top dominating performances. You had Joey Gallo hit another home run, and it's still weird to think of someone having more home runs than singles over their professional career. Pete Alonso had the 2-run single, but the National League ended up losing the game anyway when Chapman came in to strike out the side in the ninth inning. The game was more about the moments as far as things that didn't have to do with the game. Like a good send-off for CC Sabathia, who came out and threw out the first pitch of the game to Sandy Alomar. And the baseball wanted to recognize him with the fact that he's going to be retiring after this season. Then you had the whole spot where Alex Cora sends him out to the mound to visit Chapman with 2 outs in the ninth, and the crowd gave him a nice hand. He was the only Yankee that got any cheers that night, which isn't surprising. If you're not a Yankee fan, you pretty much hate every one of their players' guts. Then there was the cool moment. They do this at the World Series as well when it's on Fox. They do this every year at the All-Star game. In the 5th inning, in between half innings, the Stand Up for Cancer moment of the game. After during the commercial break when they show the MasterCard and their Stand Up for Cancer campaign, the game's essentially paused and everybody comes out of the dugouts holding up a sign saying "I stand up for," and they write someone's name there. You see all the fans holding a sign saying "I stand up for." You see Joe Buck and John Smoltz up in the booth holding up those signs, the umpires holding up their signs. And what was a cool moment there is the Cleveland Indian representation with the pitchers that made the staff, along with Lindor, Carlos Santana, who were the position players that made it, and Terry Francona, who was named to the staff by the manager Alex Cora. They're standing out there alongside their teammate in Carlos Carrasco, who, if you remember, early in June, the Indians put him on the injured list for a non-baseball related medical condition. You're like, what's going on? Well, what's wrong with this guy? Why is he taking a leave from the team? Why is he on the IL? Everyone was curious at the time. Here you have one of the more underrated and underappreciated pitchers in the game, and he's taking this leave of absence from the team. And you come to find out last week that he has leukemia. So, first off, your heart sinks when you hear that, especially for someone so young. But it was such a touching moment. What you saw at the All-Star break, to show the unity there, not just amongst the Cleveland Indians players and Terry Francona, but to show the unity across the game, and the players all showing who they stand up for, who they're representing in the battle against cancer. Let's face it, it's something that unfortunately all of us in some way it's touched our lives. So that was just a cool moment there to see that. Another heartfelt moment that went on over the course of the week was what happened in Anaheim on Friday. I didn't get a chance to discuss this a couple weeks ago because it happened right after I got done recording the podcast, but by now all of you know about the passing of the Angels pitcher Tyler Skaggs. And just a shocker to hear not just an active player, but someone that young pass away. He was only 27 years old, would have been 28 on Friday. This was actually the Angels' first home game since his passing, first game that they played at the Big A since his passing. They played a couple of road games, but hadn't been back at home since his unfortunate passing for reasons that we still don't know of. And you saw his family there, of course, his mom throughout the first pitch. All of the Angels were wearing number 45 jerseys. Now, usually I am, as you know, I'm against the opener, and I don't take any credit toward or give any credit toward the combined no-hitter. But this is one time where I got to take a step back and say, oh, that's pretty cool. The fact that the Angels go out there, they're able to perform in the fashion that they did on a night where they're celebrating their teammates' life. And their pitching staff, between Taylor Cole over the course of the first 2 innings and Felix Pena over the last 7 innings, combined for not just a 13-0 shutout, but a combined no-hitter. The only base runner they allowed to the Mariners that night was a 5th-inning walk. Outside of that, an excellent tribute to their teammate, and able to back that up with an awesome performance on the field. And it's weird when you think about some of the things that went down over the course of that game. Mike Trout hits a home run in the first inning that went 454 feet. Skaggs' number was 45. The Angels scored 7 runs in the first inning. They scored 13 over the course of the game. Skaggs' birthday is July 13th, 7/13. The last time the Angels threw a combined no-hitter, you want to take a guess when they did that last? July 13th, 1991, the day Tyler Skaggs was born. You can't make this stuff up, people. You can write this out. You can make a script out of this kind of stuff, and people say, "Oh, you're crazy. That will never happen in a million years." Well, it happened. It was an awesome scene to see, and it's an awesome story to tell. You wish that Tyler was still here, but obviously he was watching over the Angels on that night. Now, there's one more thing I want to get to in baseball. Actually, 2 things. Number one, Marisnick of the Houston Astros, the young outfielder, is very lucky that he got only a 2-game suspension for his actions last week. And I'm sure most of you saw this. The last game before the All-Star break, the Angels are playing the Astros in Houston. You have a situation in which the bases are loaded. It's 1 out in the 8th inning. Game's tied at 10. And you have a short fly ball to right field, in which was retrieved by Cole Calhoun, I believe it is. He throws home to his catcher, Jonathan Lucroy, and Jonathan Lucroy gets just obliterated at home plate by Jake Marisnick, who was pinch running at the time for Yordan Alvarez. They went to the review, they went to replay, and although Lucroy didn't catch the ball, they called Marisnick out for I'm not sure exactly the term, whether it was interfering with the catcher or veering out of his baseline. But in my mind, it was the right call here, because you watch the play, you will see Marisnik is running along the outside of the third base line. Lucroy's set up in front of home plate. So in order for him to make contact with Jonathan Lucroy, he has to veer back inside the third base line to run him over in front of home plate, where he had the entire home plate behind Lucroy open to him. So he's lucky he only got a 2-game suspension, and he should be, quite frankly, ashamed of himself for appealing the 2-game suspension. But you're seeing the after effects of that now. The fact that Jonathan Lucroy will miss 3 weeks after a broken nose from that collision. I'm stunned that it's only a broken nose. I'm stunned that he doesn't have some kind of major concussion, because he was knocked the hell out. I mean, where are Craig and Smokey when you need them to say, you got knocked the bleep out, man? I mean, just an unbelievable shot that he took, and Marisnik's lucky that Joe Torre only gave him 2 games. But speaking of the Astros, if you didn't love Justin Verlander as a baseball fan, you gotta love him even more this week, because he finally became the first player. And I've been waiting to see who was going to be this guy that stepped out on the ledge and stated this, that made the accusation toward Major League Baseball, claiming that the balls are juiced for more offense. Now, Rob Manfred, of course, since then has come out and denied that claim, has stated that they're looking into the reasons, saying that the reason for the spiked home runs is that there's more drag on the baseball, trying to claim that there's that baseball had nothing to do with it, saying that Rawlings in their mind is doing the same process as usual when it comes to creating the baseball. What he doesn't realize is, we all know Major League Baseball owns Rawlings. Major League Baseball owns the company that makes the ball. So, yeah, of course he is going to try and deflect blame, but he's deflecting blame to something that he's the commissioner of, and that his organization owns and runs. And all of us out there, and you're going to try and tell us that, there's nothing wrong with the baseball. Then tell me this, all right? Tell me why at the All-Star break there were already 3,691 home runs hit this year. At this same pace, same time last year, there was only 43 home runs hit last year. You're on pace for 6,668 home runs, which would be a new league record. Last year, you only had 6,100 home runs. There have already been over 100 home runs hit this year that have gone over 450 feet. Last year, there was only 82 home runs hit over 450 feet. And I'm telling you right now, it's not all just because of the Rockies playing 81 games a year in Colorado, or the bandboxes like Philadelphia and Boston, or there being some cheap home runs hit at New Yankee Stadium, such as yesterday when little Eric Sogard hits his 11th home run of the year, his 10th, and he had 11 home runs over the course of his career prior to this season. That in itself should show you that there's something with the baseball. But Manfred, to try and cover up, saying, we believe the batch of baseballs have less drag on them. Our thinking was colored by the report done last year saying that Rawlings hasn't changed their process in any meaningful ways, hasn't changed their material, then tries to claim that there's some little, through our investigation, there's some little pill that's in the middle of the ball that maybe that could be leading to it. Oh, you don't think? Yeah, we all know that you did something to the baseball, especially when you see the fact that AAA uses the same baseball as you, and they've had a spike in home runs this year. And it's not all just because of the PCL, all right? You also have to mix in the fact that of what went on with, or mix in the fact that when you move from AA to AAA, AA and AAA are using a different baseball. So tell me, Rob Manfred, how many more excuses are you going to make? How many more claims are you going to make? Oh, we have no idea what's going on with the baseball. Yeah, bull crap. You know what's going on with the baseball. You have everything to do with what's going on with the baseball. So do us a favor. Stop insulting our intelligence. Just go back to what the ball was 2 years ago. Back when the ball was at less of a flying out of the ballpark pace than it is now. Now, as you notice, I didn't do much trade deadline talk this week because, listen, we got one hard, fast trade deadline coming up in 2 weeks. There were a couple of pitching moves made over the weekend. Remains to be seen if those are going to have big impacts, with the A's getting Homer Bailey and the Red Sox getting Andrew Kashner. Red Sox, we know they need a starting pitcher, especially with the fact that they're moving Nathan Eovaldi to the closer's role when he comes back on the IL, off the IL. But there's going to be a whole lot of rumors coming up over the next 2 weeks. So I didn't want to spend too much time talking about that today. Unfortunately, it sounds like, though, one piece of that potential trade deadline could be knocked out of commission with Zach Wheeler going on the IL with a shoulder issue today. We'll see if that has any resounding effects on whether he gets traded or not. But I'm sure next week I'll have more talk to do. And we're going to see a lot more action this year at the deadline. It's going to be more of a seller's market because, remember, there is one hard, fast trade deadline this year. There's no, you can make, after July 31st, you can still make a waiver claim, or you can make, put someone through waivers and make a trade before September 1st. No, that's been eliminated. Now, the only way you can make a roster addition after that is if someone was a free agent and not signed to a team such as Bartolo Colon, who I know is still trying to continue hopes of resuming his baseball career, or bringing someone up from your minor leagues. 2 weeks from Wednesday, that's it. That's the only outside the organization roster moves you can be making. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. I think we're going to get a lot of movement, especially with the pitching front here. Team's going to be looking for starting pitching, but there's not going to be that big one true ace available is the problem. And you'll see over the next couple weeks what teams decide they're truly out of it and what teams think they're still in it. Because with the second wild card, it's led to more teams, more cities feeling like they're in it. More teams thinking that they're in it. So much so that you have a team like the Cincinnati Reds, who's 6 games under 500, but they're only 4.5 back in the wild card. They are only 3 back in the loss column for the second wild card spot behind the Phillies. How they're right there in the mix in the National League Central. Even though they're in 5th place, they're only all of about 5 games back in the loss column. And you got their GM this week saying that he thinks they're gonna be buyers at the trade deadline. So if they're buyers, who does that make sellers? What, just the Giants, Mets, and Marlins in the National League? So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that, but I'll get to more of that next week. Get to more of the NBA if any of that comes down. For now, my friends, all I could say is this. That was Keeping It Sports with M3 for Monday, July 15th, 2019. I hope all of you have a great rest of your Monday. Enjoy your night. Enjoy the rest of your week. And I'll talk to you guys again, same time next week. Peace.